The Destruction of Pharaohs Host, completed in 1836 by the English artist John Martin, is a large-scale water painting where Martin depicts the Bible verse Exodus 14, lines 26 through 31, which is a dramatic apocalyptic fight between Moses and a Pharaoh's army. The first thing that comes to mind when I begin to look at the painting is that it's vast. There are a couple different perspectives you can use to approach this painting, one of them being, of course, as the viewer looking at the painting for what it is as the admirer, and while doing so, the height of the waves catches your attention. The waves are monstrous in size, swallowing anything and everything in their path, including the Pharaoh's army, and as your eyes begin to follow the waves, you begin to realize the waves extend all the way into the bright, blood-red sunset. Employing a panoramic composition to a magnificent effect, Martin plays with the scale of the figures and the scenery to maximize the epic nature of the drama. The emotional force of this scene of deliverance and retribution is heightened by a blood-red sunset below a sweeping black sky. Martin's use of black over the sea is used to draw your attention to his vivid use of red to highlight the horizon. I believe using these two colors was to first portray a sense of doom and anger, and then wrath, as this painting is an apocalyptic piece. The black shadow casted over the waters could be seen as the sense of doom, while the red horizon could be seen as God's anger, almost as if the heavens are angry and Moses himself serves as the medium between God and his wrath. The second way to approach viewing this painting is through the eyes of Moses. The painting itself is very grand and leaves an almost biblical impression on you, which makes it all the more grand. But what solidifies this grandiose impression that it leaves is that the apocalyptic battle that's taking place in the painting, all the death and destruction that's happened, is all caused by Moses, an act of God carried out by a mortal. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen. The entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea, not one of them survived. Thus were the actions of Moses. Although in Jewish religion Moses may be considered a prophet, in Judaism only God is worthy of worship. Overall, what stands out the most in the painting, and what I believe Martin should be applauded for, is his use of blue, red, orange, purple, and yellow watercolors to create such a dramatic effect on the sky and the horizon. John Martin, also known as Mad Martin, was a distinguished conviction artist. As one would imagine, using the word conviction, the man was dedicated to his art. A convicted artist is an artist who will pursue what they consider art through their many beliefs and desires, making them very passionate about what they do. And they are resolved to see it through, and they are resolved to achieve their ideal art form. The actions taken may be deemed necessary to the artist, using any means to an end, but to those on the outside viewing, those very actions may be considered extreme. John Martin was known for many things, but one event he was infamously known for was setting fire to York Minster in 1829. All was darkness. I could not see my hands before me, he later told the court. Using bell ropes as an improvised rope ladder, he clambered into the choir, prayed a while, gathered hassocks, and selected books into piles and set them alight. I thought it would work of merit to burn prayer books and music books, he explained, but not to burn the Word of God. It was through these actions that Jonathan Martin, born 1787 and died 1797, earned the title of arsonist as well. Martin was a young man, hard at work by 1806. Edging into artistry by executing picturesque views on china plates, he was perky, engaging, sociable, tireless, and his ambitions grew as he progressed through classical landscapes, scenes from Ovid's Metamorphoses, and such like onto the lofty plateau of history painting, winning attention at the Royal Academy and its rival body, the British institution, with increasingly startling compositions. From that point on, Martin, with many accomplished artworks under his belt, like The Fall of Nineveh and The Eve of the Deluge, in addition to the popularity he gained, Martin reached the peak of his career in 1840, and those around him would describe him as well-spoken and dapper, making him sound like an eager minor character in early Dickens. Light primrose-colored vest with bright metal buttons, a blue coat set off with the same, his hair carefully curled and shining with macassar. He kept to his points with tenacity, not hastily subdued. In retrospect, Martin led a very interesting life. Unfortunately, his career had been finished after the church incident where he was imprisoned after and was found to be insane, which could be very well seen as his final work. During the incident, many onlookers were of course shocked, but others were struck with awe and praised the fire that set the church ablaze as a subject befitting his genius. The cliff Etretat sunset, painted and completed by the esteemed artist Claude Monet in 1883, is one of 18 other views painted whilst his stay at the resort of Etretat during his travels through France. At a first glance, the painting is reminiscent of a spring evening, where the sun sets and the ocean catches its warm reflection. Monet, being the impressionist he was, the painting of the sunset was based on his own experience as he studied at seaside, demonstrating an interest in atmospheric conditions and the effects of light as the day progresses. Colors are vibrant and applied to the canvas in separated brushstrokes that create the illusion of motion on the water's surface. To be an impressionist is to depict the visual of the moment witnessed, centered around capturing the effect of light and color, which Monet was able to do with waters in the painting. Upon expansion, you're able to see the blend of red, blue, orange, yellow, and green colors Monet used to create the water surface reflecting the sunset and all its warmth. Close examination of the setting sun reveals Monet's technique of applying one color of paint over another that is still wet. He thus achieved a partial mixture, not a thorough blending of the colors as traditional painters had done on their palettes. One thing to take note of when examining the painting is the shadow casted on the waters by the cliff. You can see where the shadow is being casted because the use of blue paint darkens to the left of the painting to bring attention to the part in the cliff. By doing so, Monet was able to properly depict the sunlight causing the shadow. As for the sky, it's not your typical sky. There are multitudes of colors blended by Monet in order to create the image he studied. When in true impressionist manner, he set up his easel on the shore to observe the subject. He was making studies that he intended to take back to his studio for producing finished paintings. I believe the sky is where his impressionism shows his genius. Monet uses white, red, blue, and yellow colors to create what he thought the sky was during the sunset, which completes the painting. Claude Monet, also known as the father of Impressionism, born in France November 14, 1840, was one of the founders, if not the most popular founder, of the Impressionism art movement. Monet was responsible, knowingly or unknowingly, for instigating the movement, and the Impressionism art movement has inspired a number of styles and artists throughout history. While the term Impressionism may refer to one of the biggest art movements itself that transformed the art form itself, the term was actually used by critics to describe the artworks of Monet, hence the name Father of Impressionism. He began drawing as a boy when his family moved to Normandy. After becoming known for making caricatures of his teacher and people living in town, Monet met landscape artist Eugene Boden, who taught him how to paint outside. This led Monet to move back to Paris, where he became a student at the Académie Suisse. Here he immersed himself in the Barbizon school, which emphasized making preliminary sketches outside, then bringing the canvas back indoors to paint the natural world in a controlled environment. Like many geniuses, Monet had a knack for painting in his early years as a child and quickly found himself craving a deeper and purer art form. And like many inventions, concepts, and philosophies, they are born out of inconvenience. Monet wasn't satisfied with this approach and began to paint outside, remaining on the scene from the beginning until the end instead of finishing the work inside of a studio. He was beginning to focus on capturing the essence of shifting, natural light, which required faster painting and a new attitude about art. Impressionism actually became possible thanks to manufacturers producing new ranges of paint color in tubes that were easy to transport and used outside rather than having to rely on a studio to mix and store the hues. As mentioned earlier, Impressionism is an art style centered around the mechanisms of light and color. Key elements of Impressionism include quick dabs of paint made with broken, hurried brushstrokes as the artist seeks to lay down in paint what the world looks like at that unique moment. By accurately depicting light and color in the painting of the moment witnessed, you're able to achieve Impressionism. At times, the light Monet achieved in his paintings was almost a subject itself. Light enhanced the works and gave Monet's paintings a photographic quality despite the impression of the subject of the piece. It was these impressions rather than the subject or the themes that established Monet as a revolutionary artist. Monet, at the height of his career, had many celebrated Impressionist artworks that captured light and color almost perfectly, like the series of paintings based on the Rouen Cathedral and the water lilies at his Giverny garden in northern France. Claude Monet, who was laid to rest December 5, 1926, throughout his career influenced many important figures in the Impressionist art movement like Pierre-Auguste Renoir and Jackson Pollock. But even amongst those popular individuals, there were even more influential figures whose achievements trump the achievements of others like Paul Cézanne and the Vincent van Gogh.